Hello, everybody. We've got Blake Ray driving. We've got the Cubitus
Hey, boys.
Gambino on tonight. Nate, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. And of course, Jen G is with us, our timepiece temptress. Hey, Jen.
Hello, hello.
She had to think about it first, gentlemen.
I see.
Yeah.
I see, Jen. You have your Cubitus up.
There you go.
Yeah. I figured if we were talking about square watches, I was gonna have to I was gonna have to represent. So
Naturally.
Yeah.
If only I had any square watches, I would have brought one.
And of course, I'm not wearing the
no.
square watch that I have. So, if only you had a square watch. You have 15 of the damn things.
Roughly.
Can't really argue this point.
No.
Yeah.
Wait. You have one Rostas?
Oh shit.
Oh, that would be like having a bad case of the Cubitus.
Oh my. So what's on everybody's wrist this evening? Blake, I'm not sure if you can show us because it's on your other hand. We'll come back to you when you get. Oh, you got it off. There you go.
It's pretty easy, first of all.
Omega
Seamaster 300. The Heritage. We talked about this one. I like this one. I like this one a lot better than the Professional. But just personally, I love this watch.
Yeah. And Mr. Yiddish Cubitus Gambino Esquire. What's on the wrist this evening?
That would be the Sky Dweller Rose Gold 326935. One of my favorite aspirational watches, given the topic tonight.
Well,
With
apparently
the sexual
it's
chocolate dial.
apparently it's no longer aspirational since you got it. There you go.
Part of the discussion, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And Miss Jen, what is on your wrist this evening?
Tonight I am wearing the purple Oris.
Oh, beautiful. And usually I get my autofocus off, but I can't get to it because I've got all kinds of pictures up on the screen tonight. But we'll do that. There we go. We've got the Bucherer on this evening.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
which would be an aspirational watch to some. Certainly the brand would be. And when we get into our new watch discussion, if we have time for it later tonight, we've got a new Bucherer to show you, a new world time from them, just released this week. So we'll have that as well. And we'll talk about aspirational and Grail watches. Do you want to start, though? Well, let's see who's in the room with us here real quick. We've got AB. When I look at the 1921, which was on the thumbnail, if you didn't see it, can't stop tilting my head to the right to align the 12, a la Forrest Gump. Maybe you're like a little puppy that turns its head to listen closer, I don't know. We've got Mitch in the room tonight. Hey, Mitch. Good to see you. The StreamYard link, I will get that for you in just a moment. Or it is, did I put it in the WhatsApp group? You know what? I didn't. I'll get it to you in just a minute. We'll put it up for everybody here. We've got AB also commenting on Jen's Cubitus fossil, calling it the Fossilus.
Yeah.
There you go. And we've got John. I guess I'll put on my Monaco. I have a Monaco, and everybody's talking about square watches, and of course, I didn't put it on. So, I'm not with it tonight, really. We've got Turtle Knight, a member for 19 months. The Grail is the Red Milgauss. Yes, sir. I
want to get the Red Milgauss for 4500 V930.
Is that a Red Milgauss? So we'll tell you the story, Jen, since you probably weren't on that.
Wear it in my Pantera.
Yeah. So Toyota Mo got him a red Aquaterra, and he unboxes it on the show. And of course, Mike the Snake is on the show when he's unboxing, and he looks at it and he goes, "Oh, is that a Red Milgauss?" So that's the joke. Every time you hear Red Milgauss, that's the story.
That's awesome.
So we of course have the ghost of Yiddish Gambino who is on the stream with us, but also reminds you to upvote now. You know, speaking of Mike the Snake.
Hey guys, look what I can do. I know it's all fun, but I just can't do things. Hey Archie, I'm leaving you tomorrow.
Of course, that's the wrong one.
Hey everybody, it's time to upvote. Woo! Look, I can even do it. Watch. There. It was that easy. All I needed to do is to upvote. That's all you need to do. It doesn't even take a wiggle of your finger or even just a wiggle of one of my teeth here to upvote. Just do it.
You know, sometimes they give me too many buttons to press and I can't figure out which one to press at the right time. But there's your reminder to upvote. We just do it early and get it out of the way. How about that? Org, upvote. Appreciate it there, Org. I think Julius Caesar enjoyed something. He says, my Grail is the GO, or Glasuto original, Senator Panorama Date Moon Phase in gold.
That's great.
I didn't know they.
That's, yeah.
I didn't know they had those in the ancient Roman times. But
yeah, they're gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous watch. So let's we can talk about the Grail stuff, or we can talk about Cubitus Gambino's latest try-on trip. Why don't we talk about the try-on trip first, shall we?
Oh, sure.
You tried a little something on, didn't you?
I had an interesting weekend. So on Saturday, on my way to meet with our watch collecting group, we typically will go to an authorized dealer out in southern Palm Beach County in Florida and kind of take over the lounge and drink coffee and stare longingly at the salespeople to convince them to sell us things that we'd like. Mm-hmm. And I made a couple of stops on the way up. One at a local Rolex authorized dealer where I saw something that hopefully will be an aspirational watch that will be joining my box at some point in the near future. And I, like Bugs Bunny said, I knew I should have made a left turn at Albuquerque, but instead I went straight on a road and stopped by a local Patek dealer and got to witness these in person. And was, after last week, I fit on these things something fierce, or last week or the week before on stream, after just looking at the one in the middle, the platinum with all the complications,
right?
In that Fortune magazine ad. Flat picture, looked completely uninspiring and lame. But I got to try all three of them on. I'm hopeful at some point that, unlike Papa Thierry says, that the people that were haters don't get one anyway, and we're never going to get one. Well, maybe that may change in the near future. Yeah. I got to try all three of them on. As somebody who loves Cartier Santos aesthetic and the square watches, I have to say that they were all really impressive. If I had to put them in order of preference, it would be the two-tone, the rose gold with the blue dial. It is the good Patek blue, is how I'll call it. Patek sometimes gives you a blue dial that's really muted. It's kind of like a lifeless matte kind of blue-gray. This is very much not that. It is a very bright blue that goes with the rose extremely well. Has some real heft to it, while at the same time being extremely thin, almost like an Octo Finissimo in terms of the thinness, the feel of it. I mean, obviously Octo is much thinner, but this was it's under 9 millimeters thin, so it's a very thin watch. but it actually does have some heft to it, given the precious metal content. So this was far and away my favorite of the three, but I'm also a sucker for a good two-tone bluesy type watch. Only had a couple of those. And don't have one in the collection now. Maybe that'll change. The second favorite of the three is in fact the platinum. Again, the blue is a lot more vibrant than what was showing in the Fortune ad. So it definitely pops a lot more. The platinum is heavy. I have another platinum watch, and this is heavy. It wears much more like a Santos Large than I was expecting.
Okay.
Because 45 millimeters, I'm thinking, like it's going to be Nico's favorite watch brand. Going to be sitting there with a monster Hublot on my wrist.
Yeah.
But they measure the 45 millimeters of this from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So, everybody who remembers their 9th grade or 8th grade geometry class, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So this is your 45 millimeters here is much longer than your distance across. So it definitely wears much more like a Santos Large. Still not necessarily a huge fan of the wings on it.
Yeah.
But this one was definitely my favorite. I like it a lot better with the rose gold. It blends a lot nicer, in my opinion, than the rose gold with the steel. Having a single color metal really gives you a lot of just bulk, even though, again, it's a very thin watch. The movement on this platinum one is insane, though. That's the new caliber with the micro rotor. So absolutely fantastic. The movement that's in the steel and the two-tone is I think it's a 324 movement. It's the same movement that's in the Nautilus right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also in the Aquanaut. So nothing new by way of a new caliber there, but this one is a new caliber. It's pretty impressive and beautifully finished, like everything from Patek. And in third place is the green. I'm actually a big fan of green watches. I have a green watch. I really enjoy it. But the steel felt, obviously much lighter than the platinum, even though the platinum's not on a bracelet. It had a really nice deployant buckle, but again, the steel was very light. It felt much more like an Octo Finissimo steel in terms of how the vibe was on wrist. And frankly, for me, even though I'm sure that the steel at 42,000 or whatever it is going to be the one that sells, for crazy high premiums, given how the Nautilus goes, this was my least favorite of the three. If offered it, I actually would not take it. I think that it's going to be great for somebody, but I'd rather, notwithstanding my side hobby of buying watches and selling watches that go out of the collection, this one I would rather have go to somebody who's going to actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
For me, it's the steel and rose gold. So that's the 5-minute tour of the Cubitus. They were much better in person than they were on camera, and I very much enjoyed the opportunity to have them. They're going to be available for sale in the near future. The authorized dealer, and it's an authorized dealer I've done business with before on many occasions. They're a great authorized dealer in my area, and they pretty much said that they had been instructed that they were not to sell these particular three until they actually got another three in, so that they would have three on display at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they're going to start being sold within the next week or so, I would suspect.
Yeah,
and maybe there'll be an unboxing that's not an Invicta.
And I mean, I want you to repeat what you said at the beginning. And we were on the stream with you when we talked about this, and you were very critical to begin with. Didn't think much of it, and it wasn't until you tried it on, saw it in person, that your mind you did a complete 180 on the thing.
Well, let's put it like this: I'm still not really a huge fan of the platinum, which is the one that was in the ad.
Right.
I'm also not I'm not a huge fan of the 5712 either, which is, even though it's not the exact same complication as this, the 5712 has your, your moon phase and your small seconds and your date complication on the Nautilus. I always found that dial to not be very balanced.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not a fan of where the and I'll get a closer picture of this one, where the Patek Philippe name is on the dial.
Right.
I don't
on
know
the
if I can
side.
zoom this. Yeah. Again, not a huge fan of the layout. I personally think that this watch would be so much cleaner and better, in my opinion, if they just did the big date without the rest. A big date, center seconds would be a fantastic, three-hander watch. It would have also required a different movement than they have, because they don't have a big date, a double date. So again, this one's still not a fan of, although again, I think that it looks much better in person than in the photo that was in Fortune. I don't think that the blue popped the way that it does in person. And I think that it looks much better, again, in the metal than in the photo. But you know what? That happens a lot of the time. I mean, everybody looked at the code 19 or the code 1159 in those pictures that first were released. It looked like a dead dial, and it completely blew up. What could have been a really good release, like if they had released the, if AP had released, let's say the more fume dial versions, with the chronograph first before just the plain flat black dials. Same thing with Rolex in the 1908. They released the flat black dial with white gold and the cream dial with rose gold. The dial didn't pop, and it skews first impressions.
Yeah. So let me first of all, Mitch joins us. Hello, Mitch, and Tariq as well joins us. Thank you guys for coming in. We want to get to Mitch's super chat of $2. Cubitus the watch, decubitus the bed sore.
Yeah, that was actually brought up. That was actually brought up while trying on the watches. There was a gentleman there who is now actually two guys who have now joined our watch collecting group. One of them is a huge Patek collector. Probably has, I would say, several dozen Pateks. To describe him as a connoisseur of the brand would be an understatement. This is a guy who has the cloisonné world time, the cloisonné enamel world time on the bracelet in every metal. So, that's falling down the rabbit hole of Patek pretty deep. And he's happened to be a doctor. And when the bed sore comment came up, he goes, yes, that would be the decubitus.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the one for me. If I was to be offered one, which I hopefully will at some point.
So we've had a number of people in the chat bring up Thierry Stern's comments. So let's bring those up and see what you guys think about it, and see what other folks in the chat think about it as well. Those who haven't commented yet. This is the article from Bilans. This is the original article. I first saw it on Time and Tide, so I went to the original article so we could actually see what he said with context. So a lot of people have heard the part where he says the haters are mostly people who have never had a Patek and never will. So let's look at it in its full context and see if it still sounds as bad. I will cut to the chase. Yes, it does. So he's asked about the critics of the Cubitus, and he says, as I said, I'm used to it. It doesn't bother me. We all always get attacked when we launch something new, which you haven't done in 30 years. The haters are mostly people who have never had a Patek and never will. Oh, really? So that doesn't bother me. What counts for me is the result. And I'm confident about the Cubitus because I have a good nose and a lot of professionals around me who told me that it will work. He then is asked, professionals from within or from the market? He goes, internally, I don't go to clients with designs and ask them for their opinion. Never. I don't work with external designers either. Was Gerald Genta an external designer? I guess that was a long time ago, but still. We've done that, but it never worked. Really? So the Nautilus didn't work. Wow. Short memory, man. And you're part of the family that owns Patek, and you're saying that? Also, I really have endless ideas. He has endless ideas. We recently had a meeting that resulted in 20 different models. So why did it take you 30 years to release one? I don't know. This is just kind of, this to me, this doesn't come off well. But what do you got?
I for one agree wholeheartedly with everything that Thierry Stern has said. He's an extraordinarily intelligent and handsome man, and I'm looking forward to my hopeful allocation in the near future. And with that, I will be leaving the stream.
So to people not sucking up to Patek.
And I swear he does not look like Peter Griffin at all.
No, not at all. So what do the rest of you guys think about those comments?
Well,
in the chat. Go ahead, in the chat as well. What do you think?
I think they are tone deaf, but I also think that they are probably mostly representative of the opinions of other leading brand CEOs for their own brands.
Oh yeah, I mean, as far as asking for outside comments on a watch design, I wouldn't really expect anybody to do that in the upper brands. I mean, do you guys think AP ask anybody, any of their users, if they like the Spider-Man watch? Probably not. Or, so, but, I understand that part. It's kind of just the way he put it.
That's the tone deaf part.
Yeah.
But also, I think that because AP probably didn't go to ask the opinion of their client base is the reason why you get stuff like the Spider-Man watch.
Interesting, though. Ali Reza says, as a matter of fact, AP did go to users about that and other watches. Interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting. Apparently, they didn't go to anybody blessed with the gift of sight.
Yeah, well, I think they could have at least put the pinion somewhere else, but we'll talk about that later.
What I was going to say, and this is based on a career in helping companies get new technology products and mostly out into the market, is that you wind up with sort of corporate product inbreeding.
Yeah.
If you don't get some outside opinions and you start generating, mutant products that don't sell.
Well, and I think the comment and Ali brings up, sorry, this is 2 steps further than anything from Rolex and AP in recent years. He goes on to say the difference here is that every one of those AP mistakes were pre-sold because they were previewed and modified, even if I hated them. Interesting. Yeah, and you're right. They were all of them. I think they only made like 5 of those things of each one of the Marvel watches.
I want to jump in on this because something that really I think was distasteful was the fact that he said like they don't own a Patek and they never will. Like Patek is aspirational for a lot of people, right? I'd say 99%. I mean, I don't know the statistics. 99% of the world may not own a Patek, but they want to own a Patek. And you are telling them that they will never own a Patek, and you are killing people's aspirations and dreams.
Yeah.
Just by even saying that. You know what I mean? Like, what's wrong? What's wrong with aspiring to have something like that nice? I don't own a Patek.
Aspiring doesn't bring in money.
That's true, but I mean, who knows, right? Like you look at people who got rich off crypto like 20 years ago just by buying some stupid fucking shit coins, right? Or whatever, right? Like people get there, people grow into it, Like a toddler, you can look at a toddler right now, and a toddler will have $0, but in 30 years could be the biggest successful person, like could be Elon Musk or whoever, right? So you just can't say that. People aspire to do great things in this world, and so yeah, I just don't even know what's the point even saying that. Like what does that do, right?
Well,
Like just say nothing.
it's sort of like the Marie Antoinette quote of "Let them eat cake."
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you
And all
designed
this
a
is-
product.
Yep.
You designed a product. You put it out there. It's too late. You can't pull it back. Just let
Yeah.
people respond to it, and I'm sure you'll sell the show either way. What's the point?
Yeah.
Ollie says there are a lot of brands that people pre-reject for a whole generation because of these types of mistakes. It's not an existential mistake, but it is totally avoidable. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because two things real quick, Robert. So Mitch made a good point in terms of technology companies. The first statement that he made in terms of, we don't go to the outside market, we don't do, outside focus groups or things like that. We don't develop these things by outside, taking the opinions of outside committee, is very Steve Jobsian, is basically the way that I would describe it.
Yeah, you have a good point.
The whether or not it's true, myth, or a combination of the two, Steve Jobs was notorious for, I'm not going to respond to what people want. I'm going to create something that they don't know that they want yet.
Mhm.
And the market moved to Apple. I mean, they moved to the iPhone. They moved to everything other than the Newton. They moved to those things, not because they were necessarily the first that had each one of those individual features, but they didn't know they wanted it until they saw it, and then they said, okay, they want it. So the first comment I think is not, it's not tone deaf to say, look, we made something that we thought was beautiful. We came up with a new caliber that we think is groundbreaking for X, Y, and Z reasons. It's the second comment that just comes across, I'll be charitable and say, less than kind.
Yeah.
I don't even think that, 99% of the world, I don't think, aspires to have a Patek. I think that, a percentage, a fraction of a percent probably think that they ever will or really care to, even give a damn about any of these small pieces of jewelry we wear on our wrists. But there are a lot of people who will save up, a lifetime, or will trade up and, eventually get to the point of buying a Patek. I know that when I bought my first Patek, it was a $10,000 Gondolo. Absolutely wanted that, and that's the one that I wanted. Shocker, a square watch.
Yeah.
More rectangle than square, but again, not a round watch. But it was aspirational to try to get to that, and it felt good to have traded up and scraped and saved and bought my first Patek. I now have a couple of them, and I hope to have more. But that attitude doesn't really encourage even somebody like me who really likes the brand and loves its history to say, yeah, I'm really, that's the vibe that I want the brand giving off. No,
and I think the comment about we've gone to outside people before and it's never worked that's just stupid. Your biggest watch was from somebody who wasn't necessarily an employee of Patek.
I think
And it
to
never
give a little
worked.
context too, that obviously Gerald Genta was pre Thierry Stern. Obviously it wasn't his generation of Patek,
but your brand and
Still
your
family,
brand's
yeah.
history. You're the president of the freaking company. If you don't know its history, you're part of the family. If you don't know its history, then I don't know what's wrong with you.
And it's your current bread and butter. Like, you can't sit there and act like, even if it was before you, you can't say that. Like, to me, it not only shows how tone deaf Thierry Stern is, but I think that this is a bit of sore loser syndrome from Thierry, and the fact that I think he's still pissed that Sylvester Stallone sold that watch. I think he's mad. He thinks that because you sit down and have a dinner with him, he owns your life. And I'm
Yep.
sorry, there are plenty of billionaires that will tell him to go pound sand.
So
and he will have to.
Mr. Ali joins us. I know he said a lot in
What's up, Ali?
I know he said a lot in the chat. He is here to say it in person. Good evening,
How are
Ali.
you doing? How are you doing, Ollie? First of all, and more importantly,
I'm doing terrible. It's all right.
I'm sorry.
This too will pass, sort of thing. Like eventually, but Blake, hopefully you got back to the United States safely, or if you're not in the U.S., like wherever you are.
I am safe and sound at home.
And
Thank you
Tariq,
so
hopefully you
much.
didn't get in an altercation in the Macanudo Club in Watch Time, New York.
No, I didn't.
And hello to Mitch, Nate, Jen, and Robert. So the first fundamental problem, and I think he hopes people forget, and then unfortunately assholes like me don't forget, is that Patek first said, fuck the Geneva Seal and the switch watch industry and standards. We're going to do our own thing. That's the first thing they did, basically. Like, we're better than everybody else. Fuck you guys. Now, they had legitimate criticism of what was going on, but that wasn't the way to handle it, right? They basically removed themselves from any standards of manufacturing, any standards of refinement, any standards of finishing, and just said, we do it better than everybody else, so we're going to make our own standards. Then, more recently, they did a couple things between then, in terms of the way they treated ADs and stuff like that. Then more recently, they said, fuck ratings for water and stuff. Like, we're just, nothing really matters. They really don't matter. So we're just going to say everything's this or that or the other thing. And what you think doesn't really matter, right?
Everything's
Then he
30
comes out. Yeah. And then he comes out and says that, you know, designers don't matter. Where, again, none of these brands would exist if it wasn't for Joe Argento right now. Like, literally, right? So he comes out with that level of arrogance and stuff, and the arrogance, to Von Krull's point, absolutely serves no purpose, because there's no winning strategy to making those comments, right? The best case scenario is the same thing that AP did, and I can't remember the collector's name, but he was an Asian collector who basically owned every bloody AP for years. He got so frustrated with the way AP service and folks talked about their customers and the reliability of the watches that he did a whole bloody YouTube expose with a couple of, like, Revolution watch, I think it was, that said, I'm never buying another AP again. And the whole Japanese collector market, including like AYTY style and stuff, they started buying Journes. They still have a couple of APs, but you don't see them on their IG feeds or on their YouTube videos anymore. They just went elsewhere, right? So it's like, you're not going to gain new customers, right? And there's a distinct possibility that you're going to lose existing customers. So there's no reason to do it. Now, like I said in the chat, is this an existential thing? No, but that's going to be fine. They're going to sell every one of these watches.
Oh, sure.
Right, but they're handling it like there's no reason to handle it this way, which just makes you think that, like, when Rolex talks about things, there's a degree of arrogance, right? When AP spoke about things, there was a degree of arrogance, to be sure, right? Vacheron, for different reasons, you don't really see that with Vacheron, but this was like, you know, I'm going to shoot my dick with an STD gun, and then you're still going to suck it. It's like, are you out of your mind?
Well, there's an image.
Well, and I think it's, you know, some of it is that I think he was in a moment of everybody was dogpiling on Patek. They were just like, this looks like shit. I can't believe you would do this. It's been 25 years. What were you thinking? Like, was this a committee of kindergartners that made this watch? It was phoned in, you know, all these things. And then he gets basically a microphone shoved in his face and said, so talk to us about the Cubitus. Well, you know, if I had busted my ass for 6 years to make this and somebody was shitting all over it, I'd be pissed too. I'd be like, fuck them. You know, I don't care if they, you know, I would have said offhand
Jen.
things too, like, oh, they're not going to
Jen.
afford it anyway, or.
But it's that. But Jen,
the
I'm
thing
sorry,
is
it's not his first rodeo. It's not his first
No,
rodeo. Like,
that's what I'm. Hold on, let me finish.
Tell
Let me
Thierry
finish.
Stern to make a YouTube channel and then find out how his
Yeah.
feelings get hurt.
Yeah, no, and like, and I agree with you. Like, he needs to understand that at that moment, he needs to be real careful. Like, if he's not ready to have that conversation, he needs to back up and go, hey, right now, it's not going to be good optics. I'm not in, like, just
Don't they have
say,
PR
I can't
people?
come, I have a lunch. Yeah, like, they need somebody to talk to him and go, hey, we understand you're upset, but you can't say this shit. Like, you can think it and it'll pass, but don't say this in a magazine where it's in writing. It's like, come on.
He should have been. He should have been prepped better for that. That interview for sure.
For sure.
These guys go through so much media training.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm a friend of mine who was a media trainer, you know, for a big PR firm in New York. I mean, their entire interaction with the media is scripted.
Sure.
I think,
but he seems like
Jen,
somebody that doesn't let anybody tell him anything right now. Like, he thinks that he's the king.
I think you're right, but I also think you're wrong, because let the watches get on the market, let people start buying them, let collectors, let them get on wrists, and then if they don't perform, come out and say some shit, you know. But we're talking
exactly.
pre-release, like they were just announced, like they haven't even made it into the boutiques yet. We don't even know if people are going to buy them at this point.
Right.
You know, I think people. He knows people are going to buy them. The flippers are salivating at the mouth, just waiting for their opportunity to make a profit on this.
24 has them up for $120,000 for a stainless steel green dial. They're $120 or 120,000 on.
It's crazy.
24.
And Tariq, I mean, at the end of the day, the code, this Patek has the same thing the code had going for the Cubitus, is that people were going to buy them as their way of trying to get what they really want anyway, right? Even the first generation codes were, because of the flat dial, right? Was effectively a mistake. AP actually, they said nothing about it. They highlighted all the case design changes, which were good changes. They highlighted some of the stuff they were doing with the straps and materials. They highlighted the manufacturing process changes, but they totally did not address the fact that they made a misstep with the dial and the font. Then they came out with the second generation with the dials that were more colorful. Then they started picking up sales, mostly in Asia, not in the US, right? But people actually started wanting them a little bit, right? And they progressively made improvements before they ever addressed the code launch. It was damn near 3 years, right? And Benny Haha was on his way out the door before he finally said the code launch. That was like, we acknowledge there was a problem. He didn't say anything about it for 3 years. And that dude was notorious for not being able to keep his mouth shut. If he can keep his mouth shut, right? Terry Stern needs to put some fucking, like, you know, goddamn hemorrhoid cream on his lips and keep his fucking mouth puckered up.
Well, so two things. The first of which, Ollie, I just, you know, one of the things that you said in terms of, you know, when they moved away from the Geneva seal. My understanding, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, they gave up the Geneva seal because they decided to go to silicon hairsprings. And Geneva, the Geneva seal organization does not issue a Geneva seal to watches that don't have, non-transitional metal hairsprings. So as soon as they moved away from that, and started doing the silicon hairspring, they were never going to get the Geneva seal, so they came up with their own. I don't think that it was a FU to the Geneva seal. We're coming up with something better, or we're doing our own thing. It's, well, we're never going to qualify for the Geneva seal, but we want to have something, so we'll just call it the Patek seal. With regards to the 1159, and I mean, you know very well that one of my highest aspirational watches, despite the treatment that I've received at various AT boutiques in the United States, as compared to in Switzerland, where I had a wonderful experience and got showed every possible watch, including ones that they were never going to sell to me, and I had no issue with that fact, is the 1159 Aventurine Perpetual. And that watch, I think, because of the blown launch, and even though the fact is that even now, nobody wants the code. At least certainly not in the United States, because I see on the secondary market every single day, codes sell for 60 to 70% off their retail price.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mind-boggling to me. Like, I see that just earlier this week, there was a beautiful, the red Fume dial, white gold, code 1159 chronograph, which I think is like a $50,000 retail watch, being offered at $20,000. Not even, and it didn't sell. It was being offered for $20,000. You know, my aspirational watch, the Perpetual, which is $107,000. The market value of that watch, gold, that was a complete set, 2023, for $43,000. That's a disastrous launch of a watch that I think that, you know, maybe because they didn't address it in you know, publicly and acknowledge oops, and, you know, try to give some kind of relaunch and really focus on the changes that they made, you know, soured people on the 1159 as a line entirely. And I think that how poorly the 1159 launched and has continued to do is one of the reasons that, you know, while everything is going down, obviously still, but why I think that the Royal Oak has declined at a greater rate than the other, you know, hype watches. I think to some extent that has to do with the code. I mean, they have two lines.
Okay, so let me address the end first. The
Sure.
evidence actually as a brand is the reverse. As a brand, AP's decline in prices has not been as bad as Patek's or Vacheron's. Only Rolex has done above it, according to the Every Watch, like the continuous auction stuff. Now, the code selling after retail, shitty, you're right. I don't disagree with that. But that's not AP's problem. Like, from their perspective, that doesn't affect their bottom line. They're selling every bloody code possible in Asia. They just are. There's no reason for them to discontinue the line. They are. It's actually popular there. It's not even like, it's not just a Royal Oak aspirational watch, which it is here. Over there, they actually seem to like the style. It's not for me, but they seem to actually like the style, right? I mentioned this. I don't know if you had joined I don't know if you joined the show, right, beforehand. But like early on, I was shocked to see how many of my friends in Hong Kong and Taiwan, in Myanmar, like Singapore, they were like trying to get their hands on codes. I'm like, this is crazy to me. Like, what do you? They just liked it, right? So I don't know that AP has any reason like to cancel it or anything. Like, for me, I don't want it. I'd rather them produce more Royal Oaks. But as a business, I don't know that it's really like changing anything for them, right? They're opening up more AP boutiques. They're opening up more the AP experience type stuff. They've got the hotel and the museum. Like, they're continuing their upswing, right?
Yeah, my only thought about that and is that so many of the secondary codes that I see are coming from Asia.
You're right.
So and the question is, you know, people have bought them. They're not staying as part of their collections. They're moving them very quickly. And I'm certainly not saying that they're buying them in order to get the Royal Oak or anything.
No, they also are doing that, Nate. But hold on. Go to Grail, or is it Grail? I think it is.
Yeah.
So one of those sites that specializes in all sorts of other luxury goods. If you want any Goyard, any Hermes up into the Cali bag, not including the Birkin, you want any Dior white, you want Chrome Hearts, any of those brands, they're all being sold out of Japan and most of the Asian market at a rapid clip.
I've noticed.
It's not that's just part of that market, is that they can flip to the Western market. That's part of it. But so that doesn't mean that like Chanel and Hermes and all these things are just going down the shitter because they released a code. It's just part of the way that their market works over there right now, because they know they could flip, especially as the dynamic in terms of exchange rates improves, right? They know they could flip to the Western market. So if I want
flipping it, but they're losing. I mean, again, the prices continue to go down. I mean, again, they're flipping them for 40% of what they made.
But on the code right now. But those buyers have a tendency to do it across all luxury products because they're stocking their stores for Western market. So what I've seen is that the same sellers, if you go over to Grail, I think it's Grailed, because this is how I came across it the first time. A number of years ago, I was trying to find for my wife at the well, she's still my wife. My wife a specific Chanel wallet that had been sold out in the U.S. like immediately, hadn't been allocated. Found a seller in Japan that had that and had a Dior white and had a Goyard, all that she was interested in. That same seller was selling APs and Patek and other things. They were basically stocking their store for flipping across all these brands. So they continue to buy and they amortize their costs and operating loss like any other business.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So a lot of these people are actually like on the back end, they're businesses. They're not individuals. It's not, and you're absolutely right that they're still like they're taking a bath on that. But I think it has more to do with the way that they operate a business in buying and selling luxury goods than it does on that one watch. But again, let's say that's the case, that you're right, it can't last forever because then people will stop buying codes because everybody apparently will hate the code, but it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know that there's a reason to cancel it. There's plenty of reasons to do things to adapt it to the Western market, but they haven't found the need. Now forget that for a second. Because the code, again, I've been on record. The first code, if they hadn't released the first generation code, I think we'd be had a completely different conversation, right? I think you and I agree on that.
Yeah.
But the second part of it, so no, right? The silicon hairspring, they came out. The silicon hairspring thing was documented, courtesy of people like Jose Presco, was documented as resolved in 2002. Patek didn't make their move for 2009. They just said it was super limited. Now, right now, very few brands do the Geneva seal, but all the brands who don't do the Geneva seal that are in the luxury market, with the exception of Rolex, publish a standard that other people can actually work it with, like Omega does Metis and other things like that, right? Patek is the only one who doesn't. They just have the Patek seal with no documentation of what that actually means and don't allow anybody else to audit it or participate in it. Whereas everybody else that had moved to an alternative, whether it was Chapard, Omega, stuff like that, they collaborated, moved to an alternative to publish something. Right? Patek's approach was uniquely more arrogant and different. And I don't know that
no disagreement on any of that part of it. I mean, they'll tell you, yes, they're +2, -2 seconds per day in terms of accuracy or whatever, but that is not what they're saying. That's the standard for the Patek seal. They're just saying that's what all of their watches are.
And they don't allow they don't allow auditing, which they've said very publicly. While the other brands, including Cartier, who does Geneva seal, but Cartier still allows secondary auditing. The Roger Dubois, who they criticized, allowed it then, right? Even and their criticisms weren't invalid; they were just fixable. But if you don't want to fix them, fine. Then publish a standard. Tell us what the Patek standard is, and allow other people to certify to the Patek standard. Fine, right? That's what everybody else basically did. Absolutely. Although they didn't have a named standard, with the exception of Louis Vuitton, right? So I think it's unnecessary. It's an unnecessary self-inflicted wound. The aspirational thing in particular, like people who've never seen one of the quotes, not just own a Patek, but like never seen a Patek was one of the other quotes, right? It's like, I'm going to see these on Thursday, right? It's not that I think they're not going to look good. I think they're going to look really, really good. Like in hand, most Pateks look, even if they're not my style, they look really good. They're really well finished. Their colors are generally very good. They're always displayed properly. Like you never run into a Patek AD that doesn't have the best possible lighting, glass, crystal, whatever, right? It's that I'm looking at Jen's watch, the fossil in the corner. Yep. I'm thinking Cubitus.
It looks like a Cubitus.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it's not.
No,
it's
the
not
Cubitus looks like my Panther knockoff. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So it's like it just doesn't feel like Patek. Now, the same thing's going to happen with the Cubitus as which happened with Code. It's just that they're going to be able to refine it. They'll have a second generation, and a lot of these things will get worked out. So all he had to do was keep his mouth shut. But now that he didn't keep his mouth shut, not only do I remember all the Florida Patek problems, and I remember the arrogance of the Geneva seal, and I remember the arrogance of the water stuff. Now I remember this. And if he thinks that I'm not, forget my current life circumstance now, I'm still doing really well, but I got a freaking Roman Gautier that is absurdly expensive, like still in the collection. Like if he thinks that I'm not a potential customer or people like me are a potential customer, he's out of his damn mind.
Well, here's I mean, elaborating a little farther, the customers now are not going to be the same customers in 20 or 30 or 50 years. Ollie, your children, my children, all of our children are going to be the customers in 20
Hold
30
that thought. Hold
years.
that
You
thought.
know, we
Sweetheart, come here. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Sweetheart. On your father's dead body, you will never buy a Patek Philippe watch, okay? Ever. All right, good. You can continue to do what you're doing. I
Okay.
just eliminated another customer.
Okay, there you go.
And sweetheart,
Oh, no, I
one
mean-
other thing, sweetheart, just remember after Daddy passes
You
on.
call my daughter sweetheart again, mate?
You
You
can
call
call
my
There
daughter
we
her.
go.
sweetheart again?
I don't have a name for her, so just remember, Daddy only paid $10,000 for the Romain Gaultier, so that's what you should get for it when it's time for you to.
He already knows better. Also, in my living will and my will, there's actually explicit instructions that include JJ as people to consult if something should happen to me. It's already in my will, dude. I've got it covered.
That's awesome.
But
Oh, you
I
just
mean-
don't screw with the man.
it,
Go
it
ahead,
does
Blake.
seem a little arrogant.
Sorry, Blake. Yeah.
It does seem a little arrogant to say like you're only relying on one generation. Like you're talking about a multi-generational brand that's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and you're talking about kissing ass to one small customer segment and saying people in the future will never own a Patek, right? These people, right? I hope that someday my children or my children's children or will be able to purchase these types of things. And you look at all the little Gen Z YouTuber kids, right? Who don't know shit about watches, but they have a Patek, right? Because it's cool to have a Patek, right? So I don't know who the fuck you're talking about or what the hell you're talking about saying, hey, these people may never own a Patek. Like
Yeah.
people win the lottery and go buy a Patek, like people stumble, people get lucky on shit and buy shit. It just seems silly to even think about that, right? In my opinion. Sorry. So
After hearing him say something like that, it made me think about every luxury brand out there. And would any representative say anything like this? Would anybody from Louis Vuitton
No.
or Dior
No.
say anything like this ever? They think it, but they'll never say it. And the fact that this guy actually slipped up and let this fall out of his mouth is beyond me. I can't believe.
Tariq, it's not a slip up because he continued, he expounded,
Yeah.
right? He felt
Right.
like that was actually talking to his audience. He completely missed it out because the closest thing in recent years was last year Watches and Wonders, or was it early this year Watches and Wonders, when Rolex said everybody just needs to come to Watches and Wonders and needs to kind of give up on it. It's like the hot shit, like we're the hot shit. That's the closest thing. The next closest thing is Benny Ha's exit interview when he said, I'll never work for anybody else because AP held his hands too much. And he kind of did a little bit of insider tell all right on things there. That was the next closest thing. Both of those are nowhere close to what he just did.
Yeah,
By the
that's
way,
all inside baseball.
What-
Those comments
what-
are just inside baseball. They don't move a market. This actually has. I think that his last comment has an ability to actually impact a market.
is Tariq? I'm trying to figure out if Tariq is actually like in the Illuminati headquarters, or if he's like just because he's got a 60 size stogie that he's smoking on. What watch is that you got on your wrist? I missed the wrist check.
I
we
got
haven't
a
done Tariq.
Black Bay 58 Blue.
Okay, all right. It was awfully shiny. It looked like a
Yes.
precious metal. You haven't done the wrist check? Do the wrist check, man. Do it.
No, we did it. We just Tariq was in late.
I came
so
in a
we
little
didn't do
late.
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
I still got the.
I don't know what Nate is trying. Okay, I guess
I
Nate-
still have the
Nate-
Longines.
Nate's put on
What-
his Invicta.
What-
Mitch, what's on your
Ollie-
wrist tonight?
Still the Longines Navigation, the big eye.
There
What's
you
up,
go.
Brian?
I'm permanently attached to it for the near term.
Sorry, Blake. What was that?
I was about to say, I was waiting for you to say, oh, the Rolex guy, whatever. I can't think of his name right now. We don't sell watches, we sell dreams. Like, I was waiting for you to drop that
Yeah.
one, too, because that was pretty
No,
douchey.
See, but he's actually
That's a little
he says
different. That's a
that
little
is he's talking to the social media audience that we just don't like. Like you and I aren't the TikTokers of the world, but the TikTokers of the world talk that way. Right? Like, and that's what AP's approach with all the music collabs and the Spider-Man. They're talking to TikTokers. It just happens that we're not those.
Yeah,
You
and I mean, we don't sell watches, we sell dreams. I think that plays in really to our topic of the show tonight, aspirational watches. We sell a watch that is aspirational to the world or for the world.
Right.
Everybody, I think what he's saying is everybody, and of course this isn't true, but everybody aspires to a Rolex. And
Right.
There's
that's
also-
really
I
not a
think
bad thing to say.
I think that's far more true than
everybody wants a Patek.
what
Most people have.
everybody wants to
Yeah.
Patek.
Yeah,
I mean,
No.
not-
Well,
we all
and
know what a Patek is, but Rolex is one of
Yeah.
3 brands that
Right.
has, what do they say, like 100% market penetration in
Yeah.
terms of
Right.
knowledge of the brand.
Yeah. Patek
Yeah.
Philippe, like if you go to a random person, you're like Patek Philippe, you say Frederick Constantine, you say Gerard Perregaux, they just all sound like pretentious names,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
The Rolex to them actually means something. Now, there's another aspirational aspect to this, which Nate is actually, I think, close. He's probably the best person on this panel, and maybe just the best person we've had on this panel outside of JJ in years. That is aspirational. There's a business aspect to it that people like Nate and JJ, and Toyota Mo's really good at this as well. They trade up into their aspirations, and they also trade back down into their style.
Mhm.
Right. So people who will move fluidly into Patek and out of Patek as well. And he has to remember that. Right. It's like that aspect of your professional decorum and behavior do affect the way people. And again, this isn't going to affect Patek's bottom line or existential. But if he thinks that it didn't actually affect potential customers, well, then he's just out of his mind. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and
I have a
think
Pat-
I have a
another
Patek-
thing that we,
Hang on just a second. Jen, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jen.
I think what we're completely like glazing over is the fact that this watch has been touted as the watch to bring people into the Patek fold. It is
That I never get.
the
Facts.
the affordable quote unquote Patek, and it's supposed to be aspirational, and he's telling all those aspirational people they're never going to get his watch. And it's like, how can you sit here for months saying, oh, this is going to be for the kids, this is going to be for all those
Yeah.
those go-getters that
point.
are out there in their 30s, and he's like, no, fuck you, it's not for you.
I feel bad. I
You'll
need to
never
tell my
see one."
daughter that she can buy what she wants, but I'm not going to.
Yeah,
Well,
Jen, you're 100% right, because I mean,
That's a
I
very good
remember when
point.
they started talking about this, is that this was the entry into Patek.
Mhm.
Now, I was not expecting them to come out with a $10,000 watch, because that
Right.
that devalues the brand. You can only
Right.
go, I don't want to say down market, because 10,000 is still an extraordinarily expensive watch, more than what 99% of people on the planet will ever choose to spend $10,000 on, if they have 10,000 of discretionary funds to spend on something like that. But I was expecting something that was going to be, certainly, at least in the most simple version, less expensive than the entry level Aquanaut. That's what I was expecting. I was not expecting something that the steel version of which costs $10,000 more than the last price of a steel 5711. I mean, I think the last steel 5711 retailed for $33 before it was discontinued, and the steel Cubitus is a $42,000 watch. How is that intended to bring in, people in as the entry into the brand, unless they intend to raise the price of everything else?
Yeah,
I think
I will.
absolutely nuts.
because it's
I
all
think-
it's all baloney.
It is
the
all
whole
baloney.
thing.
But I
Yeah.
actually appreciate that they didn't make so. God, I don't want to compliment Patek right now, but that was, he shouldn't have said that. He shouldn't have. But I actually appreciate that they didn't make like a BMW 1 Series. Like, one of the things I've never liked about certain other luxury brands, Gucci's horribly guilty of this. Mercedes-Benz, BMW are horribly guilty of this. They make what I call the 1 Series, right? These are just not up to spec, not up to par, not up to style, not up to anything. And they just want people to be carrying the logo around. And I do appreciate that Patek didn't do what AP did and produce pajamas,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, speaking of cigars, I just want to note that the white glove cigars, leaf cigars, still available. The various packs from the past weeks, if they haven't sold out, they're still available on that page. The discount codes on the pages. Now, These packs are, in some cases, especially the new cigar smokers, they may be a little bit pricey. So the Leaf brand cigars are getting real good reviews. Go take a look at the Leaf brand cigars and get something, not only to support the sponsor, which is great. We don't get a kickback at JJ's channel from them. But it would be great if we could just have a larger community of cigar smokers and a smaller community of Patek douchebags.
Yep.
So if you had a Patek aspirational fund, a great way to divert that money is with Leaf cigars.
And these are the Leaf brand cigars right there. So
yeah, the people, so you, Quicker, a number of other guys have actually picked them up, really, really like them. He sent me one. He sent me a couple, so they there are multiple options there, including the latest pack, which is the Opus Rare Pink pack. Anyway, since cigars came up, I thought I would just mention that real quick as well. So Tariq said he has a Don Carlos, which I approve of. Which Don Carlos is that? That looks like that must be the number 2.
Not sure. I got it from the pack actually. One of the first ones that we had.
All right, so it's number 2.
Yep.
Very good.
One other thing that Ali just mentioned, and by the way, it is. I'll just say it. When I first started watching the channel, JJ's great, but Ali is fantastic. I always enjoyed seeing him on stream, and the fact that you haven't been on for a while has been a big downer for me. I know
you've been missed.
A lot of really good reasons. You've been terribly missed, and it's wonderful having you back on. So I'll just say that.
Thank you.
The other thing is, in terms of souring people on a brand by some stupid comments and behavior from an owner, I only want to say that 3 words: FP Journe. This year, what has happened to FP Journe after the report again? That's not. I mean, that wasn't even in an interview. That wasn't even widely disseminated, other than through Reddit channels and things like that. I mean, that's not that wasn't a formal interview. And you saw how that had a real impact on a market. Granted, a market of a brand that only makes, in watches in the hundreds per year, it's easier to, have a market tilt by some comments from leadership. But, this really has an ability to kind of sour new people on the brand. I don't think it's going to sour, like the guy I met this weekend who's got dozens and dozens of Pateks. He's going to keep buying Patek. He loves Patek. But maybe it stops somebody who was, I've got $25,000. I was thinking about getting a Calatrava, for my first walk, my first watch.
You can afford a Panda on the gray market for that. Are you going to tell me that this is competing against a Panda and you're not going to acknowledge that fact? Like, come on. If we're talking about aspirational, people want a Panda.
Take this segue.
They do.
I want to take this segue because I have a Patek fund. I've been saving up for the right Patek, right? I've been at the Patek boutique. I have an allocation coming for something. I don't know what it is, but probably a control, my first Patek. But at this point, I really don't give a shit or give a fuck, and I probably don't see myself owning a Patek anymore because I work hard for my money. I bust my ass. I kill myself every day to take care of my family, to buy watches. Patek has been aspirational for me, but don't be such a douche about it. Like,
right. So I expect by next Tuesday, if you order some Leaf cigars today, by next Tuesday they'll be there. I expect to see you light up on the stream then. Take a little bit of the Patek fund, right? And a little bit of the Bell and Ross fund. Yeah. Take a little bit of the Patek fund, a little bit of the Bell and Ross fund. Go buy a couple cigars.
I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do anything.
That's only like 3 cigars anyway, dude.
I'm square, bro. I'm a square. I'm a Cubitus.
You're cute. Oh God.
We want to thank
Big George. Thank you very much,
Big George, for his.
There is a race tonight, by the way. So there's 3 entries in this.
Yep, we'll talk about that in just a second. Welcome back, Ali. Good to see you. It is good to see our man Ali. Yes, if you want to get into the race tonight, please, if you super chat, or if you join us, join the channel, a bronze level or above, not only will you get into tonight's race, but you'll have access to the WhatsApp group where you can talk to all of us offline 24/7. And I think we're all in the group. So come on in and join us. if you join the channel tonight. Bronze level are up, but bronze level is the lowest level. So if you join, you're in. And also, we'll pick out a couple of people at the end of the night to go into the race for free. If you've been active in the chat, we'll put you in there. And let's see, I'm missing some. Oh, yes, the member chats. If you have a member milestone chat, you can also get into the race if you use your member milestone chat. I think that's all of them, right?
That is all of them.
I believe so.
I do appreciate people. I am kind of trying to work my way back in. I will not be joining the WhatsApp group anytime soon for unfortunate behavior of some people in the group.
Right,
but
we know that.
It is a great group. It is a fantastic group of people that JJ has put together. So, and certainly it's good to be around. FP Jorn, dude, FP Jorn. So let's recap the FP Jorn story. Now, all of this is a story, but the story has been amplified by none other than people like Nico Leonard, right? The Flying Dutch Watchman and recent race car driver, right? It's been touched on by Roman Scharf and other people. That Federico touched on it. Christian, Theo and Harris, they touched on it. So the allegations are as follows: that he has a history of throwing parties where he gets a little too inebriated and says various things that behaves in an untoward fashion to some of his own collectors, in particular females, and that there would also be females invited to those parties of a particular professional persuasion on behalf of other collectors that made other people uncomfortable. But the things had cascaded into an alleged event. Again, this is all allegation, where he had a dinner where all of that happened, and then he made some very specific vitriolic anti-Semitic remarks, and it was recorded.
Yep.
And that the person, the high-end collector in Japan who recorded it, was extremely offended, and then had decided apparently to bring it forward, and then had been, again, allegedly encouraged by a bunch of people not to bring it forward because it would tank FP1 prices. And at the time that these rumors were going on, they were sufficient enough that the every watch auction tracking stuff, the value of FP1s that next 2 months at the auctions plummeted 70 some odd %.
Wow.
Right. So it had a real impact for a brief period of time, right, at a minimum. So that's the short version of what happened with FP1. Continue with the super chats and stuff. I've got a
member chat from Big George, New York. Member for 21 months. If you're into a Cubitus, a Santos could scratch that itch for much less. And
that's a terrible idea. The Santos is absolutely an abomination of a watch.
Says the owner of every Santos imaginable. Oh, only three.
Only three.
Including one he just recently sold to JJ, which, by the way, is gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, that thing's awesome.
And a very cool watch.
Tariq, thank you very much, Tariq. $2 from my Patek fund. So you're $2 less from getting that ultimate dream watch. $2 from your friend Mikey. Cheers to everyone. Thanks for the watch chat talk. We appreciate that, Mikey. And $5 from AB. I don't think Ollie is getting a Christmas card from the Stern family this year.
So I don't think I was ever going to get one. And I'm going to recap a bit of my Patek stuff. So my brother, wildly successful, also watch collector, he was a Patek guy. So he actually started his journey with Breitling and then moved straight to Patek. He didn't that was the way he went. And in his circles of what he does with the partners, they were all very financially, they're all very financially off. Many of them became Patek guys kind of together. Now they're all in the greater Tampa Bay region. I'm not exaggerating, every single one of them had a failure that had to go to service within the first year of every one of their 80 bought watches.
Wow.
And roughly half of them had to do with humidity getting inside of the case. And of that half, a couple of them were Nautiluses and a couple of them were Aquanauts.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I keep saying I don't consider Patek Florida safe. Now, an AP, you shake it a little bit. A AP chrono, you shake it a little bit. It decides it's no longer chrono. It decides it's just some swinging arms. Like, I'm not saying that other brands don't have that problem, but that particular problem to me, being that consistent over that large of a buyer set, was just bizarre to me. Right.
Von Krul brings up a good suggestion too. The
Nice watch.
Manhattan 39 ultra thin with the ETA Pissou 7001. Yeah, and it's real funny because in the back room stuff last Sunday when we were talking about this watch, and I brought up the Mito Multifort big date, which was one alternative. JJ had actually texted me a picture and wanted me to bring it up, and I didn't see it in time, of the Manhattan. So that was his thought as well. And they're gorgeous watches. They're finishing for a $750 watch. That finishing is amazing on that Manhattan. It really is.
You know what's going to be interesting over the next 10 years is the machine finishing, especially with like resurfacing printing and stuff like that, is getting so damn good.
Yep.
That hand finishing in a lot of cases is just going to be subpar. Like over the next 10 years, hand finishing in a lot of cases will just be subpar. So it'll be really interesting to see what ultra luxury watches, like the 6-figure watches, start adopting more machine finishing for certain parts, because the hand finishing.
Isn't it the imperfections that make the hand finishing really a standout feature?
No, but it depends on the type of imperfection. So I'll give you an example. The first release of the 15500s, right, of the APs, the imperfections led to micro. They were visible under a loop, pieces of metal shavings on the dial that weren't cleaned out of the dial properly, right? So there's certain things that you just can't afford to have the imperfections on, right? So it's going to be that's what I was saying. The mix, like where will they mix in that machine finishing on the ultra high end? Because they're going to need to, because the more you look at things under the loop, you see dust, metal shavings, anything like that under a loop. People post these things on IG now, like everybody remembers. And in the case of AP, it was Hafiz Mahmoud and his YouTube channel and his IG, a very prominent collector who posted it.
That sounds more like a quality control type of thing over like let's say you look at Lange and Son, and they're like each movement is hand finished, and you can tell who in the factory finished it based on the particular type of design or the way their hands move and things like that.
Could be. I mean, you could obviously take hand finishing and then also do like 3D lithography to make sure there aren't any things, left behind, right? There's ways. Right. But I do think that ultimately it's going to end up that way one way or another, because some of these things become so intricate that if you have companies like Mille, which produce gorgeous watches for under $1,000, right, you're going to want to then differentiate yourself even further.
What about the whole Atelier Ren controversy with the 36-hour hand lathing thing that somebody was talking about? I forget who. But
you mean Atelier Wen of Marco Silky Ferranti Amish Gambino fame?
That would be it.
Dude, I had to block them. I had to block them because if I was like say not interested on IG, but eventually I had to block them, and their ads still pop up now because they do collaboration ads. Every time I have to block them because they were showing me fucking Marco's goddamn Amish bearded face every like 17 images. And I like Marco, but not that much. I can't look at that mug with that Amish thing going on.
It's going to become. It's going to become.
It doesn't connect.
It's going to become increasingly less expensive to achieve levels of finishing and movement sophistication to the point where it's going to be, well, it's already starting to happen, where it's going to become harder and harder to distinguish or justify the, paying, Vacheron prices, when you can ultimately be able to get a Chinese watch that is just as not more reliable and is, functions better and looks the same or nicer.
Yeah,
it's the quartz crisis, but in finishing and in movement architecture.
Yeah.
To your point, and Robert, I put up a picture to share. I was looking, online in terms of, I was suddenly very interested in guilloche dials, and lo and behold, by mentioning the words guilloche dial in my house, all of a sudden on
So
YouTube,
good.
the algorithm started putting some things up.
This is so good.
These
I love this
are
watch.
CNC machined guilloche on mother of pearl, both a black mother of pearl and a light mother of pearl. Now, you may not like the guilloche pattern that's on here, but I've zoomed in on these, and damn if I could not tell whether or not this was hand guilloche, rose lathe versus from a CNC machine. I mean, we are the singularity in terms of watches, in terms of finishing both on dials and movement, is certainly upon us. Although we're moving further and further afield of what the topic of the show was going to be tonight, but I think you're absolutely right.
This is fun. This is fun.
If we don't get to the topic, we can do it next week. That's the beauty of not getting to the topic. And I do want to thank Tariq, who came up with the topic for tonight.
Yeah.
And I mean, certainly we can get into that if you guys want to.
Well, one of the things that I was thinking about this past week, and I put up some pictures that I'll share in a minute, was when we found out that the entry into the Cubitus was not the entry level or the entry into Patek. I won't necessarily say the BMW 1 series of Patek, but maybe the 3 series of Patek is what I was thinking we were expecting. A $20,000 or $22,000 watch. That would have been something I would have thought in terms of entry. I said for $43,000, you could wind up with, frankly, 3 Grail watches on the secondary market right now. And I have 3 of them that I just wanted to share, because I was thinking to myself, a year and a half ago for me, the thought of spending anything along these dollars on a watch was insane. The most expensive watch I owned, I had my first precious metal watch was a year and a half ago. So what I was thinking was, well, what Grail watches could you get, or aspirational watches could you get for the same $43,000? And the answer is, you could have a 3-piece collection of watches that 99% of collectors, or 99.9% of collectors, would die to have for that same $43,000. And that's what makes Stern's comments even more kind of, or at least that last comment. The first comment about, he wants to create the market, he's not looking to respond to the market. Again, I don't necessarily have as much of an issue with that. But for the same $43,000 on the secondary market, you could get the quintessential aspirational watch. We don't sell watches, we sell dreams. A 41 millimeter date just blue dial, white gold fluted bezel on a Jubilee bracelet. It's the watch that I think that everybody who, aspires to the C-suite or anything else, it's certainly the luxury of luxury watches. The next one, you could also get
a day date, a day date with that damn bezel. Fuck, man. God damn it.
What? What are you talking about? Ollie?
No, a day date. Just to me,
sure.
Again, I want a day date in 41 or 43 mil. I want a day date in 41 or 43 mil. That is that's the pinnacle of watches as far as I'm concerned.
Your day date 2, man. Go get a day date 2, 41 mil, and you can get a day date.
Am I cutting out?
No, you're on. No. Yeah, you can get a day.
Okay, I'm cutting out. I can't.
You can't hear us? Okay,
I think I'm cutting out. Yeah, I think I'm cutting out. Continue.
Yeah, so you can get your date just 41 millimeter. Your date just you can get for $12,000. You can get a Vacheron Constantin Generation 3 Overseas, which frankly is a one watch collection as it is, with a leather strap, a rubber strap, and the bracelet. I mean, and this one with the black dial, fantastic. You can get these for like $18,500 right now. And at the same time, you could also add a freaking perpetual calendar in gold.
That's ridiculous.
You can get all 3 of those watches that is, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, if you had asked me a year and a half ago, like those 3 watches would have been my aspirational end game. I'm never getting another freaking watch collection. And
That's what
the
my
same
overseas
price.
was.
I mean,
Yeah,
you can
that's-
get
These
you can
3
get
watches together.
all 3 or 1 steel Patek.
Yep, you can get all 3 of these, or you can hopefully, and you can, you know what they say: you never own a Patek Philippe, you just hold a place in the waiting list for the next generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you could for the same price at retail as a Patek Philippe on the secondary market, you can get all 3 of these watches and have a beyond kick-ass collection. You know, the Rolex as your daily, a precious metal perpetual calendar. You know, this, and I've owned this watch, this particular one. It's the 502 IW 502119. It is absolutely beautiful. And it is a beast of a watch that fits on any wrist. It's shocking, even though it's 44 mil. It'll
Hey, Nate.
fit on a 6.5 inch wrist. Yeah, what's up, Ollie? I don't know if you can hear us or not.
Can you
Yeah.
hear me? All right. So I unshared your screen.
Okay.
I unshared your screen intentionally because you're sharing full screen, and I don't want like Teams notifications or anything to pop up. So I didn't know if you meant to share full screen as opposed to sharing just the WhatsApp window.
That's fine. No one from work is sending me
So it's up to
anything
you. I
at
can
this
put it
point
right
anyway.
back on.
You can throw it back on. It's fine.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to confirm because I just want to confirm because I didn't want something to pop up that you didn't want seen on the screen.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll get a Pornhub notification momentarily.
Yay.
But yeah, but again, you can have all 3 of these watches, which frankly is, you know, if you think about it, this one is 3 watches in and of itself. You can get 5 watches that is a complete collection for the same price as a steel Cubitus. And I personally think that those 3 watches are each individually an aspirational watch. Maybe somebody's Grail. Any one of those 3 could be somebody's Grail. I know
Like
that
I was
for
saying,
me,
the overseas was my Grail. The overseas
Yeah.
was until I got it.
same thing with me. It's the same exact one, the black one.
And
Yeah.
that
And you
brings
can
up the
get 40
question. No,
you
go
can
ahead.
get 40
Go ahead, Jim.
you can get 40 Christian Ward moon phases for that as well.
That's right.
That's true. You can get 400 Christian Ward moon phases for that same.
400.
You can never have enough Christian Ward.
I know.
Or you can get, you know, a couple of hundred
Heck yeah.
GGs.
timepiece Temptress Gen
That's right.
G G-Shocks.
That's right.
So that brings up the question, and Tariq, you just mentioned that. It's the same for me. Once you get what you think is your Grail, then you go look for something else.
Yep.
Or, you know,
It's that hunt, man. It's the hunt.
It's the hunt. So is there actually such a thing as a Grail in the true sense of a Grail? Sort of, in a way, means you're done. This was the Grail. This is what I've worked for all my life. I finally have it. I'm done. But
If
you're
I
never
were-
done.
I mean, if I got my Grail, I don't think I'd be able to afford another watch ever again. And
Well, that'd
that would
you got a
that'd be a
point there.
forced exit. That'd be a
You
forced
got a
exit.
point there. But I mean,
What's that Grail?
Robert, I think you're right, and Tariq also. I think for the watch collector, the notion of a Grail as being the end of the line is essentially naive, and maybe we should start calling the next watch we're lusting after our next aspirational watch.
yeah. And you know, it's like when I first got back into collecting back during the pandemic, I figured, well, if I could just get a Tag Heuer with my budget, that would be my Grail. And so I got it. And said, well, gosh, you know, I really like Longines. If I could get a Longines, that would be my Grail. Well, I got that too.
Yeah,
Well-
for me it was the gold. For me, it was the gold watch.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. I want a
You
gold
know,
watch.
And then it's like, well, I really love Tag Heuer and Longines. Maybe I should get what I consider the ultimate Tag Heuer, a Monaco.
Monaco.
And
hell
I
yes.
got that. And so it just kind of goes on and on. And then the people in this group were kind enough to gift me what I would consider another one of my Grail watches, a beautiful GMT by Longines.
That's a beauty, man.
Great watch.
You know, and so, I mean, to me, I started with, I think, you know, this is my quote, Grail, unquote, right? But I have soon figured out that the Grail, the way I would define it, just doesn't exist. It makes you want something, I wouldn't say better, but something different, just a little bit above that next level. You know, you get to that 1.8, but what is available that I could afford maybe at the next level, and then at the next level, and then at the next level.
You know, this is true. I'm a
good
member of another virtual watch collecting group, although I knew a lot of these guys from my time in New York and San Francisco, where the concentration of high-end watches is extremely high. And you know, these are people who have like 6 Voutilainens and, you know, Roger Smith and, you know, all the Grubel Forsey. And even they, you know, they get their next Voutilainen, and which for us, many of us might be beyond aspirational. And, you know, they're off looking for their, you know, next Roger Smith or something. So
yeah, I think it's the hunt. I think, you know, Tariq brings up like when you go to the, like, I remember I used to watch Storage Wars, and like I was so obsessed with like seeing what they would find and they would uncover, and like, you know, like, is it going to be the next thing, or is it going to be a big one, or is it going to be a flop? Or I think that's just what we're perpetually on. Like, we are looking for the next thing, and the art of the hunt, and in completing your or flushing out or perfecting or getting what we would consider near perfection in your collection is the obsession, right? Not the watches themselves, but just that process, maybe.
So what's everybody's Grail then? What's the next watch everyone's looking for?
I was about to say a 5712G, but fuck you, Patek.
I was gonna say I was gonna say 5172, but fuck you, Patek.
I don't know that my Grail has changed in years. For me, it's going to be an open work from AP, rose gold open work preferably, but they always release new open work. So my backup to that would be one of the AP perpetuals with the aubergine, the purple dial. But that hasn't changed for me in years. I don't think that's going to change. And since I'm going to keep the 3 in the G philosophy, I'll end up with a no date sub, the Roman Gautier, a G-Shock, and then that AP eventually, although that AP may be 2 years in the future at this point. So I might have a very small collection for 2 full years.
I think you need a Day-Date 41, Day-Date 2, I mean, in your collection, Ali.
No, not the Day-Date. The Day-Date 2, I do not like the actual Day-Date 2 overall dimensions. I want them to refine it slightly. Otherwise I probably would have gotten one.
It is a big boy.
So you want a Day 40 to 43.
Well, no, a 41 or a 42 or 43 is fine. It was thicker than it needed to be for the size increase.
Yes.
Yes. And the bracelet was oddly, if you've ever had one on the wrist knee, and I'm pretty sure you probably have, if you actually look at it from the profile, unlike pretty much every other Rolex, which looks like the silhouette from the side looks like a nice, beautiful Colombian girl, this one looks like somebody got a bad Brazilian butt lift.
Oh, that is beautiful.
I don't know if we can get that image out of our
mind. Allow me to say the following, since I have been eyeing on eBay recently a yellow gold black dial, the ruby and diamond dial, black dial Day-Date 2. And there's one that was just at a price that I was contemplating whether or not to try to snag. Just like you fuckers and my Jacques Dro snowman watch that has now been ruined for me. Damn it, Ollie.
It's the bad
Look, man,
Brazilian butt lift watch.
I tell the guys over at the Pulitzer every year, they just need to hand it to me at the beginning of the year, because at some point in the year I'm gonna have the best writing. Period. They always argue with me. They give to other people. Fucking.
I'm gonna find it now, and I'm gonna put it up on the screen, because you've ruined me.
So
And
while we're
That's a
doing
good
that,
Grail.
I actually think I know what Jen G's Grail is, but tell us, Jen, what is your Grail?
My Grail is a Christopher Ward Bel Canto.
Oh my god!
yes.
Either
I just
purple or blue, if
I remember
possible.
you saying that. Yeah.
Yep.
I noticed you.
That purple's nice. That purple's nice.
Yeah, I love the Bel Canto. I think it's a gorgeous watch. But I noticed you made a very good point of saying Christopher instead of Christian.
Yes. It's not a Christian Ward.
I just saw the red one on Andrew Morgan's wrist at Watch Time. That thing is sweet. It's
when
a
he
beauty.
released that, my heart just broke, because I'm like, they're gonna be all gone, and I don't have the money for it.
Yeah, come on, Christopher Ward, send Jen G watch to review,
please.
Yeah,
so she can at least she can review it on the show. I think the Bel Canto is gorgeous, so I would love to see it on Jen G's wrist. Come on,
I'm a huge fan.
Too.
I don't know what happened to you guys, and if you guys just forgot how to share the screen, but can we get this up on the screen then, for God's sake?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Oh, there you go. There's the Bel Canto.
What are we talking about? We were talking about a new Bel Canto.
Black dial or a blue dial? You said no.
She said a red or something.
Blue or purple.
Yeah, the red one.
Or
the red one was a limited release.
Right.
So it's probably not on their site.
Trident. Okay, Trident. No, thank you.
I'm sorry, Ali. You were talking smack about everybody else figuring out technology.
What did I do wrong now?
No, I'm just saying.
Look at that.
Figure around for it.
Look at that.
That's so pretty.
It's beautiful.
So beautiful. Christopher Ward,
Yeah, that watch is sick.
Please. I will sell both my kidneys and my liver for this watch.
No, please don't sell both your kidneys.
I need to check my DMs,
Or your liver.
because I DM the brand president for Christopher Ward just for you, but
thank you.
I haven't followed up with him because I've been so busy, and I've been in Istanbul, and
It would not be an episode of the Tuesday Night Watch Hangout if Blake Ray did not name drop.
Did I name drop?
So actually, Blake is talking to a guy that I'm actually going to meet in 3 weeks, because he'll be down here in Austin for Intersect. So I plan on talking to him as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Maybe we can surround him and tell him he's not allowed to leave until he gives up Bel
Canto. Cough up the purple Bel Canto, or you're not getting out of the room.
Gangs. Come on, gang.
Yeah.
Hook me up.
Yeah.
I'll talk to him before Austin.
I'm looking at two sort of interesting grails. One is the JLC Duometre chronograph in rose gold, and the other one is the Rolex Sky Dweller with the green dial on the Jubilee bracelet.
Oh, I love that Sky Dweller.
Okay, wait, hold on. Which Duometre are you talking about? Because in my head, that Duometre you're talking about is a 7-figure watch.
No, this is now you can get it for about $20,000.
Okay, all right. You're not talking about the ultra complicated one I was thinking of.
No, this is just a Duometre chrono.
So yeah, this and the one that I had, the one that's on the screen right now, was the Day-Date 2 that I was eyeballing recently, that Ollie has now officially ruined me on.
Nobody ruins. Nobody ruins you on a watch. You bought the toilet bowl Piaget, for God's sake.
That first of all. So yeah, here you go.
She got a big old ghetto booty.
Look at that.
There you go.
At that. It's just a bad BBL.
And let the record reflect that the Piaget Double Jus which apparently is a watch that Piguet would never own for
Yeah.
reasons unrelated to the actual watch, but just because there's two Jus involved.
That was good. You got to give it.
God.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah,
That was
that was good.
So the Piaget Double Jus has actually increased in value by 50% from when I purchased it. I will just say that. And I sold it. I made very good money on that watch. And now if you go onto eBay, you'll see a few of them selling at significantly higher amounts than what I paid for it. Probably because the price of gold has doubled since I purchased it, and that thing weighed about 200 grams plus.
Did you anticipate that price that increase?
I was anticipating the gold increase for a while. I actually purchased that watch because I just thought it was really fucking cool. The concept of two watches in that unique way. It was just something very neat. I actually purchased that on Loop This, which is a great little auction site that I highly recommend, and of course will now ruin for me being able to continue making purchases on. Loop This is a small website that's owned by or run by Eric Koo, who's one of the world's foremost Cartier collectors. They only have maybe 15 or up to 20 watches at any given moment available for auction. That's where I purchased the Double Jus, and it was purely I looked at it. I thought that it was neat. I thought that it was interesting. I fell down a rabbit hole of watching 20 YouTube videos about it. I think the only 22 YouTube videos that exist on that watch, 12 of which were in Vietnamese. And I just bought it and owned it for a while, got mocked incessantly from Ollie and JJ and the rest of the crew. And then turned it for a significant profit and moved into a different watch. And to Robert, your point, I will say one slight difference in terms of how you described, okay, this was my Grail, and then it kind of like moved up a step and moved up a step.
Yeah.
I will tell you that for me, at least, the moving up a step part of it in terms of aspirational watches hasn't really been as much part of it as what I would have thought earlier on when I was buying $1,000 watch or a $1,500 watch or a $2,000 watch. Like my first Cartier Pasha I bought on eBay for $1,100. Then I bought an Omega GMT for $1,500 on eBay. I mean, obviously this is a few years ago at this point, but I have watches in my collection that are significantly more expensive than the next watch that I, am aspiring to get. Like those Santos Dumonts, which by the way have absolutely exploded in price since I wound up buying them over the last month and a half. For some bizarre reason, they just have disappeared, and the prices are ridiculous now. Those are all three of the ones that I have now. The entire 2023 Stone Dial collection, the Platinum Jasper, the Yellow Gold Dimitriite, and the Rose Gold Jade, all together don't cost as much as certain watches that I have. But those were ones that were really. I aspired to get that set. And now that I have it, it made the other ones that I owned, kind of, surplus, and I therefore broke up the Infinity Gauntlet. And now and I will tell you, I'm getting as much joy out of JJ enjoying the rose, rose and steel salmon one as when I was wearing it. The fact is, he's going to wear it a hell of a lot more than I was. And I'm very happy to have sold it to him for a very reasonable price and a very sizable profit.
Interesting point here by Space G. There's an attainable Grail that can be bought with strict savings. Then there's the Dream Unobtainium Grail watch. Yeah,
very true. And I just shared my Unobtainium in the WhatsApp. It's a crayon anywhere.
Oh yeah. The crayon pieces are beautiful. They just released a new one that's just unbelievable.
It is such a beautiful watch. Such a beautiful watch. And he did a HSNY presentation recently and described every intricate detail on what goes into the mechanism. And it was just beautiful. Just a beautiful watch. And I would call this my Ramadan watch. So I'm Muslim. and during Ramadan, we have to pay very close attention to when the sun rises and sun sets. But with the Muslim calendar, it changes. It changes every year when the month of Ramadan is. And with this watch, you see the light blue part and the dark blue part. As the month progresses, as it goes into later on into the year, the light blue part will actually become smaller and the dark blue part will become larger, indicating that the night is actually getting longer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let's bring that
Which
up.
is
Wow.
such
Very
a
awesome.
crazy complication.
Yeah.
There it is.
You should see
How
some of
often does
their
it need to be-
mosaic
how-
dials too.
Yeah, does that need to be like reset, or is this like one of those?
So it's
good for
set
100 years
for
thing?
it's set for one location wherever you are on the map. So like there will be like one set area for like New York. So you have to send it back to the manufacturer, and they do the calculation. Somehow sine and cosine are involved in this. Like it's a really complicated calculation.
Yeah.
And so you have to send it back to the manufacturer if you're going to be in New York, so that they can adjust the machinery in there to account for the
Wow.
time changes, just particularly in New York, or if you're in Spain or France or wherever you are.
So I have two things to say. The first of which is I was unaware there was going to be math involved in this. And secondly,
Yeah.
I'm looking at these. They're absolutely stunning.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I did not see on their website is it's just like one of those fancy restaurants. I don't see the prices.
About 140.
Yep.
Well, you know, Tariq, you say unobtainium. You know, we've seen some of the stuff that you shared in terms of your collection. You know, would you ever think about like selling, you know, a handful of pieces in order to obtain this?
I would have to blow up the collection completely, but the watches that I have were previous Grails, the Day-Date, the 1921, the Overseas, and those all hold a very, very special place in my heart. So like I can't see myself parting with those Grails, but I don't know. One day, who knows?
Yeah, that's what Tariq makes a really good point. I mean, in my higher end part of the collection, I have enough watches that I could sell and buy the Duo Metro, for example. But I don't want to sell those watches yet.
Yep.
This was a conversation that I was actually having with one of my closest friends, and another guy in my watch group who I call, Nathaniel's worst influence. Because again, when I met him a year and a half ago, I had one precious metal watch, the Portugueser perpetual calendar in rose gold, and now when I look at my watch box, I think I have 2 or 3 steel watches, and everything else is precious metal. This is a guy who loves diamond watches, tasteful diamonds on watches, stuff that I wouldn't be able to pull off, but he gets. And we were talking just this past weekend, because again, on Saturday there were 3 pieces that are going to be likely made available to me over the next, probably before the end of the year. And until now, it's been very easy to say, okay, you know what? I have like 5 or 6 watches that I will never sell, just like Tariq, like you mentioned. For example, my Day-Date 40 that I got from the AD is, it's the black dial, yellow gold, 40 millimeter diamond dial. Absolutely, it was a watch that I aspired to. It was one that I asked for specifically. And with the hope to get it on my 50th birthday, and I got it pretty much on my 50th birthday.
Nice.
I plan on engraving the back of that watch with the 3 dates that were significant for this year for me. It was it was when I was promoted to the current position that I hold that I hope to have for a very long time. I turned 50, and it was the 3-year anniversary of surviving die. Those were 3 things that were all happened pretty much around the same time. So I want to commemorate that watch with those things. I can never imagine selling them, but when I bought that one, I sold off a bunch of pieces. I didn't put a lot of new money into the next aspirational watches because it's just been stuff I could sell.
Right.
But the 3 that were offered to me this past weekend, we were having this conversation. I'm sitting there having a coffee with him, and he says, you have a problem. I go, what's the problem? He says, the watches you have now, you really like, or you have an attachment to that goes beyond just, it's a nice watch. Like, they have meaning. So if these three become available, what are you going to sell? And I went and, I literally went through the watch boxes when I got home to try to find the dollar equivalent to those three watches of things that I would be like, yeah, I can move this, and it doesn't, like, there's no emotional attachment to them. And it's not there. It's not there. There aren't enough to get, I mean, again, the amount of money that those three watches combined are is, a lot. But,
is it not there, or is it not there yet?
I don't think it's there because, the watches that I have now are ones, I kind of have a really curated collection of pieces that have individual meaning to me or have horological significance to me, like the Breguet, marine chronograph that I literally flipped up into over the course of a month. I had a steel Breguet marine three-hander big date that became a gold three-hand marine big date that became the chronograph, which is a Lemania-based chronograph, the same Lemania-based chronograph that was in the Patek chronographs for decades.
Yeah.
It's a Breguet, so yeah.
Let me give you a 2-minute warning for the race because Ali needs to run the race a little early. And so we will be running the race in 2 minutes. If you want to get into the race, you can do one of several things. First of all, you can super chat. Secondly, those who have participated in the chat, we'll pick a couple out of there for free entries. And if you want to join the channel, you get an entry. And if you want to use your member milestone chat, if you're already a member of the channel, then you can do that too. Those will all get you into the race. And so we've got just a couple of minutes to go, and then we will be running the race.
Now, before we get to the race, I don't know if we've gotten to your Grail, Robert.
Mine? We also haven't gotten to Blake's either.
Yes.
I've said before that my, I guess, quote, retirement watch will be a black Omega Seamaster 3 Professional 300. So I would say it's not necessarily a Grail to say, that's where I'm going to end, but that's sort of when I retire in a few years, that's the one I want to get. We want to thank the ghost of Yiddish Gambino, $2 super chat to welcome Ali back to the stream. Absolutely. Basil's Bezel, $1 super sticker. Thank you, Basil's. You are in as well. Blake, you're on mute. I'm not sure if you're there.
I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, it would have been a 5712 in steel, but I think now, I just don't know where I sit anymore. But I can tell you a couple watches I really want to get, like a Resonance Type 3. I think would be solid. I mean, any precious metal Daytona, like a Ghost or something, I think would be, pretty epic for me. Or even a steel Daytona. Beyond that, I can't really think of much more that I really want, at least now, right? So and check with me in a couple months and I'll say you some different shit, but for now, that's my answer.
Yeah, and Blake, are you doing unboxings next week?
I can. You mean the ones I picked up in Turkey?
That would be correct.
Yeah, I could do that next week.
Yeah, let's do some of that. First of all, member chat 19 months, AI, and a $2 super chat from Jay Giddy. Want to thank all of you guys. So let's pick a couple that we want to go in. Anybody have anybody you want to put into the race this evening? That would be the panel. Yeah, let's do that.
I was gonna say Tariq because he said Panerai Radomir, but he's already up there.
Oh, No, that was Trap Vision who said Panorama.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Trap Vision. You got it.
Yeah, there you go.
You can put me in twice.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm so tired, dude. I'm so
still gonna lose.
No. I know.
Still gonna lose.
All right, so let's get ready to run this race, shall we? We've got 44 seconds on the clock. We're going to turn the sound down and we're going to shuffle everybody. And here we go. We've got AI is in the lead early, which is probably bad news, and it is because he's already fading to the back. Jay Giddy, Turtle Knight, Mitch Halpern is coming up. Uncle Mikey also there in the front row. But AB is going fast and furious, followed closely by Mitch. We've still waiting for somebody to come in from the back like they always do. There goes Mitch. Bye, Mitch.
That's the story of my life.
Yeah, AP is still in the lead. We've got Turtle Knight, though, coming up fast. Doc Mick is coming in fast, too. And it looks like Doc Mick is going to be our winner.
Woo!
Swept the competition.
Congratulations to Doc Mick. You are our winner. You'll get into the monthly race for fabulous prizes at the end of this month. So thank you guys. Thank everybody for watching tonight. We really appreciate it. We love for you to join us here on a Tuesday night. We always have a good time. We always have a good conversation. And we're very happy to have you in here. We want to, again, thank Ali for coming back in and joining us this evening. We want to thank Jen G, the Timepiece Temptress, Tariq, Blake, Mitch, and Nate, the Cubitus Gambino. And I think that's everybody, right? I think I got everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, we take you out with our other show sponsor.
Can't beat my meat. Awesome homemade Greek style food. Come and get it. Our awesome gyros. Come and get it. Our big breakfast. Come and get it. Our Wednesday special charcoal pork shifty and souvlaki. Come and get it. Our Thursday special cabbage roll day. Come and get it. And our biggest seller, Souvla Day. Tuesday, Friday. Come and get it. And don't forget, in 2024, come and get it and you won't regret it.